Hello and welcome to the Monroe Mythic Clancast. I am Jason Monroe. This is episode 113. I hope. I didn't check. I'm sure it is. Welcome. Okay, so I am ready to get over the festive period now. We can leave that behind. I'm very aware that the last 4 or 5 episodes were very samey-same, talking about similar things, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm very aware from doing years and years of content that, you don't just post something on social media once and that's it. You never have to talk about it ever again because a very tiny portion of people see each of your posts. And I think part of being a good coach is developing your ability to say the same thing over and over again, but from different angles, because different things click with different people, or different explanations or even visualizations. Everybody takes in information differently. Like, one of the things I love is that a lot of my clients listen to this podcast. So like, somebody could be working through the 30-day trial, and within the 30-day course, I plant a number of podcast episodes that are relevant to the topic, right? So when people join right at the very beginning, I think the first podcast episode I put them onto is 71, 72, 12 stone, 9 stone body, 12 stone lifestyle. The most listened to episode ever, by the way, of this podcast. If you haven't listened to it, 430 something listens, I think. That's one that I put at the very beginning because it just, they work through the mindset lesson, and then it's like, okay, here's this little additional thing that I recorded ages ago. So my thoughts and things around it will be different to what you're watching right now, which is a great thing, because if I record content over a month, it's based on my mindset, my outlook, my thoughts, like what's happening in the world at that time, what's happening with my clients at that time. I find it's really good for people to watch content from me that is from 6 months ago or 12 months ago, because like the message is still the same. Like, my core message has not changed since 2017. It's never going to change. It's part of my values and my kind of mission statement with what we do inside Monroe. But the way that I deliver the information and talk about it evolves over time. Anyway. Let's move on, and let's bring some kind of structure and specific topics to these. I wrote something down in my phone that I saw on Instagram the other day, and my goodness, it's such an important thing, where somebody had said something like, it was a comment, it was just a comment, right? So it was a Instagram reel. For some reason, I'm getting lots of family stuff pop up. Lots of parenting stuff, lots of dad stuff. I don't know why the algorithm's taking me in that direction. But basically, somebody had made a comment on this post and said, I don't care about myself. As long as my kids are okay, I'm okay. And my goodness, is that not just one of the worst outlooks to have on life? And if you're a parent, and listen, if you're not a parent, this is still going to be highly applicable, because it's not just going to apply to kids, it's going to apply to lots of things. But if you are a parent, you might you may think, but you're a dad, Jason. Like, why are you saying that? Your kids are important. Of course your kids are important. But no one on this earth, regardless of how you think or feel about it, no one on this earth is more important to you than you are. And if you are not the most important person in your life to yourself, then there's a huge problem, because nobody else is going to save you. No one else is going to take care of you. No one else is going to live your life for you. People are far too busy living their own lives to come in and do everything for you. So you are solely responsible for taking care of yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you might not have a partner who provides whatever, or certain people in your life that do things for you, but ultimately, nobody is coming to live your entire life for you. Only you can do that. Now, this is a huge problem I have with many clients, where I know we spoke about this many times before, but if we go back to the whole attachment thing, the whole food attachment thing, where we all have these food attachments where, I don't know, if let me think. Every time I have a cup of tea, I have 2 biscuits, and I have 5 cups of tea per day. So that's 10 biscuits, and that's 10 biscuits per day, 70 per week, etc., etc. That equates to however 100,000 calories across a year, and that could be adding however many pounds to your body. Not taking care of yourself, putting other people before yourself is responsible for a portion of the weight that you're carrying that you don't want to be carrying. So just think about that for a minute, okay? Instead of making sure that your lunch is prepped and ready for the working day, you make sure the kids have got packed lunches, and that comes at the expense of you not doing it for you. At the weekend, you iron all the kids' school uniforms for the week ahead, but you don't iron any clothes for you. You make sure that the kids get to all their clubs at night, their birthday parties at the weekend, their play dates, their sleepovers, the sleepovers you host at your house. You make sure they have fun at the weekend, but you don't do anything for you. Your kids have hobbies and you don't. Now, that, some of you might nod along and go, yeah, but that's how it's supposed to be, isn't it? You're supposed to put your kids first. Your needs aren't supposed to matter. Why not? Listen, I've touched on this a few times. Like, I had a mental breakdown in 2020 during COVID. We were made somewhat homeless as we moved out of our old house. Our other house was like 10 days away from completion in construction. They just had the driveway to do, more or less. We moved out of our house on the Thursday. We were meant to move into our other house like the following weekend. And during that transition period, lockdown happened. So we moved out our house on Thursday. We were moving into our in-laws' house for a week. Our in-laws were going to their caravan for a week. Everything was all planned out and brilliant. And then on the Sunday, I think it was a Sunday, they came out and said, right, from tomorrow we are in lockdown. And that was us for 6 months. That was 6 months of being a business owner who couldn't take time off, couldn't take sick days, wouldn't have gotten paid for being off. Everybody else in the house was off as we were all cramped into our in-laws' house. But I still had to run a business, and it killed me doing that at home during that time, all the uncertainty about the new house, blah, blah, blah. And I had a full-on breakdown. And that was because I did not take any time to do anything for myself. In fact, I tried to do something for charity. Like, that was, if you remember back to 2020, if you've been here that long, I went out to walk. What did I try to do again? I think I went out to do 100,000 steps in a day. Planned this route, figured out how many steps I could do per mile, planned this 55-mile route, and I was like, yeah, I'll just go do that. We'll do it for charity. We'll do it for Beat, the disorder eating charity. And I walked, I think it ended up like 116,000 steps or 25,000 steps or something. That was me trying to make myself feel better by doing things for other people. And it was like an extreme example of it. So here's me working as hard as I can during COVID, trying to make sure that the Monroe method survived when many other people didn't. Everybody went online in 2020. PTs and nutritionists who only worked face-to-face suddenly had to pivot, if you can remember that word. So now the online market becomes saturated. People have more choices than ever. Not only that, all the terrible coaches now have a new platform. So you then have what is now a high skepticism. Well, fat loss and weight loss and dieting has always been a high-ish no, let's say a high skepticism market, but it's even worse now because there are more coaches than ever online, and they're not all good coaches. The majority of them aren't. Anyway, I had all that shit going on in 2020, and I'm working as hard as I can because we've got this house that we need to move into. We're like, yeah, this is a great opportunity. Like, trying to turn it into a positive. This is a great opportunity. We'll be able to save more money. That's six months of not being in a house, not paying a mortgage. We've left the old house, so that mortgage is done. We've not moved into the new one yet, so we don't have to start paying that mortgage yet. So this is 6 months to keep saving so we can do things in the new house, blah, blah, blah. I'm working like a beast in the background, trying to make sure everybody's okay. On top of that, trying to make sure the kids are entertained and fed every day. Remember, kids were home from school for months. It wasn't just like a 6-week summer holiday. It was months, all the way through the summer. I think lockdown happened at like the start of April, end of March. I can't remember when we're meant to move in, like the 8th of April or something. No, it was end of March because my son had his birthday in lockdown. So yeah, the point was, I was doing everything for everyone else, and because of lockdown, like, I couldn't do very much. Yes, I tried to go on a couple of walks, I tried to climb a couple of local hills, but you weren't allowed to go driving, 100 miles to go find some mountains to climb. So my thing that I did, I didn't have it. And so, like, that's where that whole charity thing came from. Like, right, okay, what can I do to help myself feel better? Let's go do something nice for charity. So there were selfish reasons behind that, absolutely. But I still wanted to do it for a charity that was very much struggling at the time because eating disorders had went through the roof during lockdown. So yeah, 2020, I eventually had a full-on mental breakdown. No amount of the Calm app or the Headspace app was helping. No amount of going through, and I had help with anxiety and things in the past. No amount of those exercises were helping. And yeah, that was when I had my first ever panic attack. So I took myself for therapy. And it was that therapy that helped me get to the point where I realized that I am the most important person in my world. And you know the saying, like, you can't pour from an empty cup. It's such a throwaway thing. It's so important, but the thing is, people say it so much that it just gets to a point where it means nothing. I talk to clients about it. I explain, you can't pour from an empty cup. And like, oh, I know. But they don't get it. They don't take it on. They just hear it as words. Like the whole... I think it depends on what your definition of an empty cup is. So some people might, and I'm just thinking out loud now, but I think some people think the whole pouring from an empty cup means how tired you are. So like, you've got kids all day, you're trying to stay up late at night to get some me time, knowing full well that the kids are going to be up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. The later you stay up, the shorter your sleeping window is, the harder the next day is going to be. But how do you get any time for yourself? And you end up in that late night, early morning cycle, which ends up being terrible because you think you're getting me time, but all you're doing is staying up late to scroll your phone and watch TV. You're not getting any value from it. Like, you're not filling any cups. I guess you could bring this back to the 6 facets of health, which I always forget. Social, economic, physical, psychological. Social, economic, physical, psychological. It's not mental because that's the same as psychological. Social, economic, I can't remember the other 2. But basically, like, there are 6. This is what I was taught when I did my nutrition course, right? Health is not just the exercise that you do or the foods that you eat, right? Your health is your whole health. Is your social life is your social health in a good place? Do you spend your entire day socializing with small humans? Are you getting interaction with people that are on your intellectual level? Do you speak to people regularly? Do you spend time with people regularly? Do you make plans with them? Right, so that's 1 cup. Economic health, that's like your financial health. which, yes, can play a part in it. You know, are you saving money? Are you taking care of that? Is it something you think about all the time? Does it dominate your thoughts? Are you taking care of your economic health? Then psychological health. There's lots of crossovers with these as well. So like taking care of your social health can help with your psychological health. Taking care of your physical health through exercise, good sleep, skincare routines, pampering sessions, etc. You can take care of yourself in that way. And then there's all the other bits and pieces. So it's not just about, coming back to that, it's not just about you can't pour from an empty cup. It's also, are you filling all of your cups? That's the key, right? Yes, I could say to a parent, okay, so you're going to your bed at 10, but you're scrolling till 12:45, and when you look at the clock at 12:45, you go, shit, I better get to sleep, and then you put your phone down, and then you can't get to sleep because you're just hyped up from all that screen time and all those funny videos that you watched, or those nice comments that somebody left on your picture, or whatever it is. It's like 1:30 before you get to sleep, and then you've got your alarm clock going off at 6, or you've got your small human alarm clocks going off whenever they go off, and so the struggle starts all over again. Now, the advice that I might give to someone in that situation is, what I would like you to do is I want you to put your phone on charge downstairs overnight. So when you go up to bed at 9 p.m, this is what I do in my house. I do this. My phone goes into my office, onto the little wireless cradle thing, and I don't see my phone until the morning. My watch is my alarm clock. So if you've got an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, or whatever, Garmin, blah, 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 you can set your alarms on that. You can set them to vibrate you awake. Or go and buy a bloody alarm clock. Like a good old-fashioned plug-in digital alarm clock, and set an alarm if you need an alarm. One of the worst things in the world, and this is going a bit off topic, but one of the worst things in the world that a human being can do is use their phone as an alarm clock, right? Just take a moment to think about it. If I said to you, what is the most distracting possession that you own? Okay, of all the things that you own, what is the thing that you waste the most time on? What distracts you the most? What do you procrastinate with the most? 99.9 fucking % of people are going to say, my phone. So let me ask you this. Do you think it is a good idea to make sure that the very first thing that you put in your hand in the morning is the most distracting device that you own? Of course not. It doesn't make sense when you think of it that way. So in that instance, I would give that person that advice and say, look, your phone is a problem. You need to do something about this problem. It's not going to fix itself. No amount of, I'll just make sure I switch my phone off at 11. That doesn't work. If it was easy as that, you would already be doing it. You need a barrier. You need a new way of handling this thing. So you're going to do something completely out of the ordinary. You're going to unplug the charger from next to your bed. You're going to bring it down to the kitchen. And when you go upstairs at night, you plug your phone in there and you go upstairs and you leave it there. Now you've got nothing to do. You have the one and only reason that you've been staying up till midnight, 1:45 in the morning is now gone. And all you're left with is sleepy time. Or you can read a few pages or whatever. But anyway, it's not just about helping yourself get to bed earlier at night. It's making sure that you don't put the most distracting thing in your life in your hand first thing in the morning. So that's just one example. Right, now, the point was, let's say that you get that sorted. Let's say that you do that. And you improve your sleep. Now, yes, you will physically feel better. You will mentally feel better. You will feel more rested. You'll be better prepared for the day. But what's that going to do? What that's going to do is reveal the next issue. So the next issue might be that, okay, now I've not got my phone in my hand. Now, the thing was, your phone was giving you a little bit of a dopamine hit. It was letting you live the illusion that you're not bored, that you've got something to do, that you've got something to entertain yourself with. Now that you're depriving yourself of 4 hours of screen time a day, it now shows that you feel a bit empty somewhere else. So we fixed one cup, or we fixed a couple of cups. We've improved your physical health, we've improved your psychological health, but we've removed 4 hours of screen time. Now that 4 hours of screen time might have been filling your social cup a little bit. Yes, it was destructive and it was disruptive and it wasn't positive, but you had some form of connection with other people, which gave you the illusion of connectivity, of socializing, etc. So now you find a more positive way. So, okay, we've reduced 4 hours of screen time a day, but I'm losing that connection with other people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start planning some coffee dates in. I'm going to promise myself that once a week, once a fortnight, twice every month, whatever it's going to be, I'm going to have 2 coffee dates or 2 walks or whatever you want to do with a friend. It can be the same friend, it can be multiple friends, whatever it is you want to do. Like when I'm out walking the dogs in the morning, like I am now, I very often see, and I'm going to see them, especially with it being January, it's going to happen way more often. But there's always big groups of people, mostly groups of women. You don't typically see groups of men going out for walks and talks together. But there are bursts throughout the year where you see that happening. It's great. You know, they must have a little WhatsApp group and it's like, right, girls, 7 a.m. tomorrow, awesome, see you then. Something like that. Okay, so we've removed a little bit of negative cup filling, replaced it with some positive cup filling. So now physical health's improved, mental health's improved, social health has improved. And think about the other thing. Like, if you're someone who does a lot of online shopping or who gets lured in by a lot of ads and spends money on things that they don't need, maybe by reducing your screen time, you're going to improve your financial health, your economic health as well. So, back to the point. This went in a very different direction from what I initially thought it would. It's not been all about kids at all, has it? So back to the point. You cannot pour from an empty cup, right? But you don't just have one cup. You have multiple cups. And all of those cups, I'm not going to say they need to be full. I think that's ridiculous. You would have to be an exceptionally well-balanced and organized and disciplined and whatever person to make sure that like your life is so organized that every area of your health is spot on. But what we can do is fill the ones that are a little emptier than the others. You know, if you've gone 6 months without a girls' night out, your social cup is going to be pretty empty. You know, if you've been used to doing that regularly or it's something you used to do in the past and now you're not doing it at all because you've got kids or a new job or you moved to another location or whatever. So don't get lost in the idea that you are ever going to have perfect health, right? For 2025, and I say this to my clients all the time, if you want to benefit most from the word perfection, remove it from your vocabulary. Get into the habit of catching yourself when you use the word perfect. Forget it. Perfection does not exist. You cannot ever be 100% with diet, 100% with exercise, 100% with finances or anything else, right? You do the best you can with what you... Do you know what's more important than perfection? Balance. Balance is the key to sustainability, to habit forming, to long health. Like, most people go through life in big swings. Weight goes up by 4 stones, weight comes down by 4 stones. 1 minute you've got 3 grand savings in the bank, the next minute you're 600 quid into your overdraft. We don't live balanced lives. We live in worlds of extremes where, you know, it's boom and bust all the time. And that's usually what happens when people try to chase perfection. Like, how many people have I worked with who, you know, and they'll be doing it right now. People that I've not worked with, people who might be listening to this. Your friends on social media, they will have decided, I'm going to calorie count, so I'm going to download the MyFitnessPal app, and because they've heard this 1200 number being pushed around, they'll just pick 1200 and say, right, I'm going to stick to 1200. I'm on the hill now. Do you know what's funny? I edited the last couple of episodes of the podcast, and when you look at the audio track for it, you can see the part where there's bigger gaps between me talking, and I know that's when I'm walking up a hill. Like, instead of like a kind of constant stream of lines bouncing up and down, there's a little bit of talking, then a gap, which is me taking a couple of breaths, and then a little bit of talking. And that's when I can tell you from looking at that exactly where I am when I'm walking the dogs. So 2025. And now that I've spoken about all this, I realise, like, it's not just limited to parents, of course. It can happen to anyone. But you cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot. And here's the way that I look at this now, and this is something that came up during therapy, where she said to me, like, you think, in your mind, you've created this version of reality where you think you're doing all of this for your wife, all of this for your kids, all of this for your family, for this new home, whatever. Like, do you think your kids have any understanding about the money that you make, the bills that you pay? Like, they've got children have very little to, especially at that age. That was 4 years ago. Jacob was 5 and Kerr was 2. My kids had no perception of what I was doing for them, but what they would have had is a perception of me being fun, me being there, me playing with them, me doing stuff, me laughing and smiling. So in your mind, you think you're doing all the great things, but and this is, sorry, I've skipped ahead. So she said, do you think that your kids want you at an 80% version of yourself, where you are taking great care of yourself, you're positive, you're upbeat, you've got energy, you're not tired at the end of the working day, that you just want to lie in your bed and start all over again the next day, that you've got time to play with them and sit down with them and have a meal with them, blah, blah, blah? Or do you think they deserve 20% version of you, who is working yourself to the bone, focusing entirely on work, not taking any time for themselves, not taking care of their physical health, their mental health, their social health? What version do you think your kids are going to enjoy more? And that was, like I kind of touched on at the start of this, that was my kind of turning point. Because that was when she delivered a piece of information to me that I already knew, but delivered it in a way that clicked with me. Like when I think about my own dad when I was younger, what I remember, and Christ, I've never really thought about this until right now. My memory of my dad is me waking up in the morning and coming downstairs and him being asleep on the couch because he'd been out driving a taxi until 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, had to stop that there. Dogs disappeared into the woods with body language that I knew exactly what it meant, and then 2 minutes later a deer runs across the path. Fortunately, they are very well behaved now and do come back on command. Once upon a time, Fraser didn't. He would disappear for 30 minutes, chasing deer around the place, and then just appear back whenever he felt like it. But he's a good boy now. Anyway, so yeah, my memories of my dad are me getting up in the morning, very quietly coming downstairs because the curtains would be shut, the blinds would be shut, and my dad would be lying, sleeping on the couch. Because he would come in from driving a taxi at like 3-4 o'clock in the morning and lie on the couch, watch the telly and crash out. That was just his thing. He didn't come upstairs because he didn't want to wake my mum up, because he knew that my mum had to get up with us at whatever time. But it meant that we were kind of restricted to the kitchen for breakfast and then back to your bedrooms to do anything. But that's my memory of my dad. And right now, I can look back on that and appreciate how hard he was working to provide for us. But back then, that meant nothing to me back then. Yes, the word money got thrown around a lot in my house. We didn't have a lot of it. It was very much, that's part of where my terrible food habits came from. Do you know how much that costs? Eat, finish that plate. Don't leave that, blah, blah, blah. So money came up a lot when I was younger, but I didn't understand it. You don't know what it means. You don't know what bill means. You don't know what happens when you don't pay bills. You take the house that's, the roof that's over your head, you take that for granted. You take your bed for granted, the central heating that you put on. You don't realise all that stuff costs money. You don't realise how hard your parents are working to make sure that stuff all happens. So yes, I can look back on that now and appreciate it, but it doesn't change the childhood that I lived at the time. It doesn't change my perception of my dad sleeping on the couch all the time till like 12, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Getting up, having something to eat and going off to work and not seeing him again until the next again day when I woke up and had to creep down the stair and be super quiet. So yeah, I think this idea that, and this is why the thing that I said right at the very beginning that sparked all this is it's just such a dangerous thought, because you're putting your everything on hold until you no longer have that thing to take care of. Like, so that example, I don't care about me as long as the kids are okay. That's a horrendous attitude to have. You think you're being a hero, you think you're being a martyr, you think you're being a great parent, because that's what parents are supposed to do. They're supposed to put everybody else first before themselves. You think that's a selfless act, but it's not. It's not in the slightest. Like, taking terrible care of yourself when you're responsible for other people, I would go the opposite way. I would say that's selfish. It's selfish of you to allow your health to deteriorate. Like, it just comes down to the way that you think about it. Like, do you think your kids want someone, is it more important to have kids who want for nothing, who make every social engagement, who make every football game, who make every training session, who make it to every dance class? Or do your kids want their mum or dad to be happy, to be content in life, to be smiling and joking and in a great relationship, and seeing your kids seeing you have a joke and a laugh with your partner instead of complaining and moaning to each other and getting into fights and arguments because you're taking terrible care of yourself? I would argue, and this is only just based on my personal experience because it's the way that I look at it now. So when I go back to 2020, when I was working myself to the bone, thinking I was doing the right thing, that was selfish of me, because I turned into a terrible version of myself, and there were other people that had to live with that terrible version of me. And ultimately, like, I know now, it was the wrong thing to do, because like I say, it resulted in a breakdown. I had to eventually give in and take myself and pay for therapy sessions. And it all worked out in the end. But, hindsight's a wonderful thing. Nobody knew how 2020 was going to go. Everybody raided the drink aisles thinking they were going to have a free party for a couple of weeks until it blew over. And, well, how long did it go on for in the end? A year and a half, 2 years? Anyway. So what's the take-home point from this? I would say understand what you can't pour from an empty cup means. In fact, let's make it plural, right? Let's change that saying to make it make more sense. You can't pour from empty cups. So rather than there being this idea that we only have one cup and we need to make sure it's full, like, that doesn't make any sense. How do you fill it? Like, most people, if I ask most people that question, I reckon the answer I would get is something along the lines of less screen time, more self-care, earlier nights, right? And that's a great start point, but that's all it is. It's a start point. Life is much more nuanced and complex than that. It is not just made up of the diet that you have, the exercise that you do, the screen time that you have, the amount of sleep that you get. It's so much more than that. Anyway, I think we've spoke about that enough today. It's nice to find a topic to expand on. Let's get back into that for 2025. I'll catch up with you next week. Until next time.